Welcome to Rendering Insights. In this video, we're going to draw a 1939 Chevy. This will be a little custom street rod. It'll be fun to do. All right, well, if you enjoy this video or find it helpful, please like and subscribe down below. Okay, here is the drawing we're going to be doing. There are some really cool custom details on this car that we're going to outline as we go step by step through the drawing process. We'll do all the line work in Illustrator and bring that into Photoshop in layer by layer, render this car with all the shadows and highlights. All right, let's get started. Okay, here we are in Adobe Illustrator. The first thing we needed to do on this little 39 was to find a good reference photo so we can get all our basic lines. So I found one that had the right perspective, this 3/4 front with a little elevation here. Scan that in, and then with our pen tool, just went ahead and traced off all the lines of the car. Just trace this off so we have a good guide that we can bring in to Photoshop, and we'll show how to build this rendering in layers with our color. Okay. The owner in this case is going to be building this car is doing a few little custom details, and we're going to help outline those for him in this drawing. The first one is this running board. Normally these running boards run from front fender to the back in a straight line in here. And it can be difficult, especially on a painted car, a finished car. You're not going to be stepping on these running boards. So in this case, he's making this cool hourglass shape in here. Still has the same roll as the factory on the edges here, but it's going to dip in here, so it's just easier to climb in and out. All right, so that's the first detail that we're going to change from the stock. The second one is this top. We're going to go ahead and chop this car, but this is the stock roof line on the car, and it looks really good, but it's pretty high for a custom street rod. So we're going to go ahead and chop this thing down about 4 inches. So we're going to get out our virtual Sawzall, just like you would if we were really building this car, which he's going to do. And we're going to cut this A and B pillar and cut that sucker off. So let's go ahead and cut that off. We're going to drop it down. This is what that looks like when it's lowered. What a difference that makes silhouette-wise. And to show you the difference, this is the uncut roof height. About 4 inches is what we're looking at here. Makes a big difference. All right, one of the other custom details we're going to do is this front bumper. What we've done here is split this bumper, roll these edges in, and tucked it in almost 6 inches from where it is factory. This is what that looks like from the factory. See how far that thing sticks out? And it's straight across, which certainly gives you more protection and an impact. But for a little street rod, we're going to be careful, and to customize this thing, we're going to tuck this sucker way back in here and bob that up. So let's get that stock one off, but what a difference that makes. All right. For wheels and tires on this car, he's going to use just some steelies, some black steelies, but they're going to be deep because he's got some big meats on this thing. So here's our front wheel and tire. Like I said, this is just a steel wheel, but it's going to be a custom one because of the depth of it. And then this spider cap on top, just to give it a little bit of shine and a little bit of custom detail. I think it's really cool. Here's the rear. The only other thing is a couple little details missing. We don't have our center post for our windshield. So let's put that in. And on that same layer, I have this crank cover up front. Okay, see that? The only thing missing now are the lines for our shadows. So let's drop that in. All right. Well, there is all of the lines that we're going to do for this drawing. So let's bring those into Photoshop and start playing with color. Okay, here we are in Photoshop. We have brought in our line work from Illustrator. Let's go ahead and make maybe 5 copies of this line work. Over on the right, go ahead and drag it down to that plus sign and make 5 copies. That way we'll have them for later as we're building this rendering. On the very bottom layer, we're going to go ahead and do a white fill. With the bucket tool, we're going to go ahead and drop white paint in here so we have a good foundation to build our other colors on. So here's our white layer. And in this case, some of this white is definitely going to show through. So let's go ahead and do it this way, and then we'll start putting our colors in on the second line layer. So on the next one up, we'll open it up and start dropping in our color. Okay. In this case, the customer is going to build this car and paint it kind of a warm gray, almost tan color. It'll have a little bit of a gold cast to it. So we'll start building this drawing with these kind of warm gray tones. So on this second line layer, we've gone ahead and dropped in some real base colors. This tan color, it looks kind of funny right now, but it'll come to life. This kind of tan color on the running board and rear fender. And on this right fender, we've gone ahead and selected this fender with the magic wand tool, and with our brush tool using this same color, opened it up and just lightly brushed that in, creating that highlight on the outside. So we're already starting to render on some of these panels. Up on this roof and on this right side of this hood, we've selected these layers in here and taken a little darker shade of this warm gray, almost charcoal color in here, and brushed in this gray in here, just letting it run out in the side, creating this crazy highlight. So not really sure how we're going to do this yet, but we'll just slowly start building it up. And on our front bumper, we've gone ahead in this layer, as you can see, taken our black and our brush tool, selecting each of these bumper panels in here, and brushed in some black, creating our horizon line. Just pretending we have some kind of mountain reflection going on in the background behind us somewhere over here. Just put that in. Real simple chrome horizon line we've put in. And then down below, selected our brush tool again and backed it way off and just slightly brushed in a little bit of gray down below here. So it just looks like we're picking up some reflection off the ground, and then it's going to roll under a little bit. On these headlight buckets, again, selected this section individually and just brushed in this color in here. Just a little bit in the center, leaving some of these highlights on either side, and then down below. Just a little bit, just to start rendering that. We'll creep up on it little by little. Selected this headlight ring, put some blue in here and some tan down below, which might reflect the ground. Not sure what we're going to do with this yet. These glass panels on these headlights, this is going to be a little bit different. So I just put a little bit of blue on top and this kind of yellow amber color down below. So we'll see what that looks like as we get to it. Again, these wheels are steel black wheels, but we'll add to the darkness of it later. But let's just put a gray color in there now. And like I usually do on my tires, even though tires are black, we're going to do this kind of warm dark gray color to start with, and then we'll darken up the black. We'll bring the black to it instead of going the other way. All right, there's our first color layer. Just started playing with some of the windshield reflections a little bit. Again, selecting each one of these, brushing in the black real lightly, and even lighter up on top for our horizon. Okay, on our next color layer, we're going to start darkening things up just a little bit more. See what we've done? Like, look at the wheels. Again, selecting each ring individually, we're going to start throwing some black in here. But we have this gray as a base, front and rear. We're going to treat them the same way. And start brushing in this black. We know it's going to be real dark up in these upper areas and lighter down as we get toward our highlights. So let's just do each ring that way. All right, same with our tires. We already have that kind of warm gray in there. So we'll select this ring, each layer in there, and just start brushing in our black and creeping in on this little by little. On this spider cap, this layer we've done quite a bit. On our previous layer, we dropped in just some warm down below. I'm not really sure how we're going to render this yet, but we know it's going to have some warm reflection down below. And then on this third line layer, our second color layer, we've done a lot. We've gone in real tight and drawn in, I can get even tighter in here, drawn in our horizon line, because we're always going to have some kind of reflection. So we went ahead and put a real small horizon line in black. Went about 20%, maybe 15% on our black, got it real tight and just brushed in this horizon line, and did the same with these lower lug nut covers on this spider cap. These are really cool. And up above, we gone ahead and selected these areas again, one at a time, so we're not making a mess in here. Brushed in some blue and some tan below, and then with the black, brushed in these reflections. You're going to pick up here from this wheel, okay, and reflections in here from the inside of the rim over here. Kind of treated each one of these covers the same. And on this background, it didn't do too much. Just kind of brushed in some medium tones and a little bit of blue in some places. Okay. Treated the rear wheel the same. And on the side panel, gone ahead and selected this hood panel in here, the door and this rear quarter. See what I've done? Grab this color that we did on this second layer in here, and in this layer just brushed in kind of down the center in here, keeping some of the center section, this peak, white, and being real careful not to put too much color down along here around this trim area. Just brush this in. Treated the same up on the roof, and then down the side, see what I did? Leaving some of that highlight area there. Just kind of brush that down the side and then matching that down the door and the rear quarter. And also on this layer, see what I've done? Like selected this left rear fender in here. Here we had this color in here already, but selecting this section just alone, grab the black and real lightly put this shadow down the side and brushed in this black real lightly in here. That's going to pick up the reflection from this body panel. Same with this tail light. And same on this front fender. Just little by little start brushing in this black real lightly. This is a hard car to render because of this crazy, these front fenders have so much shape in them. They roll in this way and then roll out and then back. They're hard to render. So we kind of real lightly just kind of crept up on it, brushed in the black here and a little bit reflection shadow from the grill, and then we'll kind of keep working on it little by little. See the shadow we've put under this headlight bucket? We've added that. And on these headlights, get in here a little tighter. On this layer, we had real basic colors in here. But on this layer, we've gone ahead and on the bucket, darkened things up a little bit with our black, just real lightly. And on these headlights, we've just kind of brushed in what might look like a reflection line, but don't want to go too dark on that. Don't want to go too dark. And then done some shadows down along here. But also in here, went ahead and brushed in, selected this area again with the magic wand tool on this third line layer, and brushed in this horizon line, and then just darkened things up down below. Okay. On this layer also, we've gone in and selected all of these, I'll get in here, all these grill lines in here. All right, and then just brushed in this dark charcoal color. Makes it look like some reflections going on. Did some shadows in here alongside where this fender would end. But leaving that light gray that we had, leaving that in most of it, just brushed in this little wider panel in here and then darkened up a smaller one. Not really sure what this is going to look like, but just trying to show some reflection in here. Remember, these are polished stainless in here. So it's going to have some cool reflections, but not super bright, not like this headlight ring. Okay, in our next line layer, we're going to throw in just a little bit more detail. On that grill, brushed in some blue tones. When you focus in on these, the blue looks a little bit funny. It looks like we're spending too much time with the color here, but when you step back and look at everything together, it works. Okay, again, adding some more black, working on our shadows underneath these wheel wells. See that, making those tires look like they're stuck up underneath there. Same with these bumpers. We've richened those up a little bit, gone back in and making those horizons a little darker, and the blues and everything just a little bit brighter. Adding some more shadows on these headlights, little by little. That's the beauty of working in layers in Photoshop. You can work in the next layer and play a little bit. If you don't like what you're doing, get rid of it, just delete it. There, we put these shadows in here, some reflections in there. I go a little bit. It just needs a little more. We need to richen that thing up. So we darkened up these reflections in here, and I just think it helps little by little. Same thing on these body panels. We've selected these 3 layers in here and just brushed in more black, more reflection coming up from the bottom actually. Okay, and we've dropped in some highlights. See on these jambs? Again, selecting the door panel when that was selected, gone in with the white real tight and just brushed in a little bit of highlight there. Same thing with this panel, brushed in a little bit of white, along here. And on that rear fender, start playing just on the inside of that roll in, a little bit of white there, just a little bit of there. We're starting to play with some top highlights, just a little bit. Just look around. Each panel, you just treat it differently as you go. Darkened up the side of the hood a little bit. Even on this this mirror, we darkened that. We already had a little bit of tan, a little bit of blue on there, but just darkened it, got in there. And it's not super detailed, but just brushed in what might look like a reflection and the shadow that will come off the car in there. Even played with that door handle a little bit. Okay. On our next line layer, just a few more shadows and a few more highlights. This front fender, remember we talked about this crazy shape this thing has. It's really hard to render. It gets dark and it gets light, but in this layer, I went ahead and brushed in a little bit more white up here. Figure it will follow this highlight coming off this vent. So we're going to go ahead and let that roll up. Just seems like it ought to be there. See the shadows we've put in the bottom of the hood? This metal is going to roll down under just a little bit. So let's put a little bit of shadow in there where that would roll in. Okay. A few other little details. You've darkened up the shadow just a little bit more, a little by little, playing with this side trim over here. Okay. See these little highlights on the front? Just tiny little bit. Just enough to make it look a little bit more realistic. Okay. On our last line layer, we just added some highlights and a few little things. Decided first to hit these areas, again, these 3 panels, this rear quarter, this door, and this hood side and top, and brush in just a little bit more black, real lightly, just to start bringing that thing alive. And on these other areas, again, selecting these areas, so if we can get rid of it if we don't like it. We start brushed in some highlights in here. Just how this would roll up going toward that grill, and just, I don't know, it just looked like it needed it in here. Okay. And then we added a few more top highlights around the car. This is what really makes it come to life. Look on the wheels. Seeing here on these ripples on these wheels, little bit of highlights on there and on those spider caps. It just really helps it make it come to life. Okay, look on the bumper. We put these hot spots about where they ought to be in these reflections, but it just makes a big difference. Same on the mirror and on the windshield trim. All those little details. Look at the chrome up here. And what that did for our grill is amazing. Remember, we had all these colors, and even this blue looked a little bit harsh. But by the time we put in these top highlights on here, this isn't a line layer. This is just right on top with our brush tool and our white. We've kind of dropped in and just kissed this thing a little bit in these areas. Again, we're not making this line perfectly straight. In a perfect world, it would be. But in real life, these trim pieces of this grill never line up perfectly. They start out just killer and they get down here and they get a little wonky. So that's what we're going to do. And even if this grill is perfect for the drawing, it just makes it look a little more realistic, like it has a little bit of shape to it. Okay, same with back here. All right, well, there is all of our highlights. Now, the only other thing we're going to drop in are some little reflection stars. All right, so I put those on one layer for sake of this video. And they're real hard to see. You see it here on this headlight ring, in a few places on these hot spots. Now, if you didn't have the highlights underneath them, they'd look really weird. Look like fractures or scratches or something. But on top, they make a difference. I like what it does on the chrome. Look on that front bumper. It's just cool. Built those in Illustrator and then brought them in. All right, well, there is our basic car rendering. Now we just need a background. In this case, I decided to do just a gradation background. Nothing fancy. We have kind of a tan color down below and a blue color up above that kind of might look like the background without getting any detail. Okay, very simple. Decided, you know what, let's throw a border on here. Grab this color right from the middle of this gradation so it definitely kind of blends in. See it right about from the center. All right, well, there is our take on a 1939 Chevy street rod. All right, hope you enjoyed that. Well, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful in any way, please check out our other videos available on Rendering Insights.